challenge at the Aussie Millions, and Richard Yong is, well, he has a dominant chip lead. He's an aggressive player. He's been an unknown quantity at the Aussie Millions for the last few years, but he's really stormed onto the scene. And he has control, Joe.
He just put Ole all in with Jack 6. Ole's woken up with Ace 5. He needs to win this hand to survive.
Going up against Richard Yong with Jack 6 off.
So Shemion with Ace 5. Richard Yong clearly taking the opportunity with his stack now to try and knock him out. Can he be the champion? If he knocks him out, he's the champion. He gets that title he's always wanted.
765. 765.
There is the LK Boutique ring that the players are playing for, alongside the title of champion, which would mean so much to Richard Yong. Ole Shemion from Germany, though, our chip leader for most of this tournament, and there is a jack on the board, so Yong pairs his jack, and now Shemion 2 cards away from elimination.
That's good turn cards.
Still a smile on his face. It's only $1.8 million after all. Let's have a look at the turn. It is a 5 of hearts, so...
Oh, that's a great turn card for Ole. Now he has any heart, any 5, any ace.
Will Shemion survive the river and double up through Richard Yong, or will it be time to crown Richard Yong as champion? And the river is a 4 of hearts, so the German will double up through Richard Yong, and Richard Yong taps the table in a congratulations. He's got such a commanding chip lead, but this German, who has played outstanding poker, 70 players now down to 2. Can he claw back? He calls on the button, and Richard will check. Shemion with Ace 4 offsuit, and Richard Yong with a suited connector in 7-6 of diamonds. And here's the flop, a 7, a deuce, and a 3. So Shemion with a straight draw, Yong with top pair. The German checks, and as does Yong, the turn, a 3 of diamonds.
Richard's definitely trapping here. Ole's not taking it, though.
It goes check, check again, and the river is a 5 of hearts.
That's 150,000.
That gives him a straight. Yong bets into him now.
Yeah, the question is, does Shemion raise or call?
20 seconds.
The bet is 150,000.
Looks like he's raising.
Raises to 440,000.
That's exactly right. 440,000. Pressure back on Yong.
Call.
And he announces calls. So Ole Shemion hits the river. Now it went check, check. So is that... Are we critical of Richard's play there, Joe?
Not really, mate. I think Richard was trapping, trying to trap
440.
Shemion the whole way.
Heads up battle. Richard Yong started with, well, in this session, an insurmountable chip lead, and now 2 hands in a row. And Richard Yong raises the button with Ace 9 offsuit. And Ole calls.
Ole calls, and we'll see a flop.
Richard Yong with about 4.7 million in chips, and Shemion with around 1.5, 1.6 million. So the flop, a king, a 9 and an 8. So top pair for Ole.
Interesting how Richard just throws his chips so casually into the pot all the time. The other thing too, Paul, that I want to reiterate is that Shemion knows that he's the better player. So he wants to take his time and win this, try and win this match by chipping away at Richard rather than playing big pots. And that's what he's doing at the moment.
Well, he turns trips. Shemion check calling a bet on the flop, electing to play it a little bit softly there. Yong, who paired his 9. This time, it looks like Ole's going to bet.
He bets 280,000.
Ole makes it 280,000. Richard snap calls.
So the pot now 1.56 million in the middle, and Shemion in really good shape. The river, a 3 of spades. So Shemion with trips. He's built the pot quite nicely there with that bet on the turn. We're around 1.5. How much is a reasonable bet to get called here?
He's moved all in. He's got under a pot size bet, so he may get called here. I think very consistent betting pattern by Ole Shemion, because we saw in the previous hand where he had the flush draw on the turn, he led into Richard. This time he had the trips on the turn and led into Richard. So very consistent.
No, this time Richard will fold, so not wanting to chip him up, and it is the correct fold. Down $1 million or so. So Ole perhaps with a little bit of momentum. You said a bit earlier, Joe, that he was the better player and Richard needed to really work hard and get a little bit lucky perhaps. Shemion raising it up with King Queen offsuit and Richard Yong calling with Queen 3 of clubs.
I think Ole Shemion will be happy just to, like I said earlier, just chip away at Richard a little bit at a time, get the momentum, get the chip lead. Once he has a chip lead, he can win the tournament.
Well, what an action flop this is. Shemion flops top pair, Yong with a flush draw.
All in.
Check raise all in and call. So Richard Yong reveals, as does Shemion. Could this be the moment?
Could be all over right here.
Ole, our at-risk player.
That's kind of like a pretty obvious spot where Richard flops a flush draw and Ole has top pair with a decent kicker. The money's always going to go in the middle.
Shemion with top pair, and he is all in for his tournament life. So therefore, Richard Yong, if he wins this hand, would eliminate him and be the champion. We know how much the title means to him. The turn, a 10 of diamonds.
However, if Ole Shemion's hand holds up, he will be the new chip leader with a dominant position.
Well, you can see now they've both been quite relaxed, but you can now see the switch in tension. They know what it means. $1.8 million, and the river is a queen. So what do you know? Ole Shemion now wins the hand. His hand holds up with two pair, and like
Ole Shemion is in a position where he can actually win the tournament.
Yong limping the button there, Joe.
I think Yong's limp with an ace-7 there is more of a trap. He wants Ole to raise so he can get all his chips in.
Well, he's got the raise. And Richard Yong announces all in. And sure enough, look at this. Ole Shemion,
Well, he wakes up with a hand.
he's got him dominated. So it could be the German that takes out the title here. He's in very good shape.
Going up against Ace of Spades, Jack of Clubs.
What a turn of events in the last two hands.
That's what always happens in the Ultimate Hold'em, Paul. Things can turn very quickly.
Big smile on the German's face.
Einmal nicht.
We'll see a flop.
He is the favourite in this hand. There is a king, an 8 and a 5. So
Eight of Spades,
thus far,
on the flop.
Ole Shemion could be the champion of our 100k challenge. Will the turn be of some help to Richard Yong? Can he survive? The turn is an interesting 9 of hearts, giving him outs.
There's always a sweat. Now he's got more outs now. He's got 4 6s and 3 7s.
On the river,
Will the river save Richard Yong, or will it be Ole Shemion as champion?
final table.
This could be it. And the river is a 6 of diamonds, and Richard Yong stands up and laughs. He's been saved.
Still heads up on this final table of
Amazing, Joe.
Guys are having fun. And to me, as I've said time and time again, Paul, poker is about having fun.
Richard Yong limps the button, and Shemion checks. So Richard Yong with about 2.9, Shemion now with about 3.8, so they're not too far apart now. And look at this, both players have flopped trips.
This is an action flop now.
100.
Queen of Clubs, 5 of Spades.
Wow, this could be a disaster. I think it's going to be a disaster.
Yong's in very good shape here.
Ole checks and Richard
20
bets out
seconds.
100.
It was checked. Richard Yong bet 100,000, and look at this. The German is not wasting any time.
290.
Makes it 290,000. Back over to Richard Yong. Is this the moment? Are they going to get it in right here, Joe?
Depends if Richard feels that he wants to trap and just call here and let Ole hang himself on the turn, or does Richard think that he wants to get it all in?
Calls.
He just called.
Well, he has position, so we'll go to the turn. It is a 9 of spades. doesn't change the situation. Richard Yong in a very dominant position here, and both players with such a strong hand heads up. The question is, what will Semyon do now?
I think Semyon will bet about half the pot, a little bit more than half the pot. Partly to build the pot up and also to induce Richard to raise.
You're spot on about the amount. About 455,000 was the bet. Over to Richard Yong now. Is it time? He announces all in. And look at this. Semyon sort of leaned back. Shrug of the shoulders.
Yeah,
Says yeah.
I call.
And he calls. So it was almost like he had a bit of a feel for it, Joe.
Jack has done
Yeah, he wasn't happy for it, but then he's saying to himself, what am I even thinking about? I've got trip fives here. I must call.
He kind of knew, he almost
Yeah.
knew it. It's amazing a poker player's instinct, isn't it? And Semyon is quite devastated.
His gut was telling him that it wasn't good.
Well, Richard Yong is the all-in player, so Semyon would be, well, his stack would be decimated, but he won't be out of this tournament. Richard Yong in fantastic shape here to take back that chip lead.
Ace king, huh?
Ace.
Well, an ace, king, queen, or a 9, and they will chop this pot.
Oh, the river's a 4 of hearts, so Richard Yong doubles up through Ole Semyon. We continue our heads-up battle.
Tuition.
And fair play to Richard Yong for putting so much pressure on him
Great
too.
play
It was
by
a
Richard.
really good move, wasn't
Great
it?
play by Richard. Just fearless play.
Richard Yong calls on the button with Jack 10 of diamonds, and Semyon in the same neighbourhood with 9-8 offsuit. The flop, a 6-7 deuce 2 hearts, so
Check. Check.
Semyon flops a straight draw up and down.
150.
Checks again, allows Richard to come out firing, which he does again. 150k.
I can't see Ole not getting it all in here.
20 seconds.
He's got 1.4 behind. Richard Yong with a commanding chip lead.
All in.
You're right, Joe. He announces all in. Richard Yong. Yeah, and Richard
Richard's
Yong
just
says
gambling now
call.
with Jack 10 with 2 overs, right?
What's he thinking
just
here, right?
absolutely gambling. I don't know. He's maybe getting bored.
You are ahead, man.
But he's ahead at the moment. That's what's so funny.
See a long cut there, I think the 2 diamond.
Oh, he thought the flop had 2 diamonds.
Oh, wow.
睇錯牌㗎。
Oh, wow.
Richard with a misread
I see a long cut.
could end up winning if he gets lucky. A misread could win him $1.8 million. This is remarkable.
A big baccarat.
Semyon really, he's all in. He could come second here if Richard gets lucky. There's not much dividing them. Richard only a slight favourite here.
Absolutely.
We'll see a turn card.
Here comes the turn.
Turn card.
It is a repeat 6. This time the 6 of clubs. So, well, as you can see by our percentages, Semyon now,
9.
in an amazing twist of fate, has been called by Richard Yong with Jack and 10 of diamonds. He thought there were 2 diamonds on the board, and he's still ahead. And he could win the title right here. The river is a 4 of hearts, so Richard Yong. Well, have you ever seen that, Joe? He's
What
misread
an
his
incredible way to finish this event. Seriously, it's been so entertaining, and this last hand was the most entertaining hand of them all.
Wow, you congratulate both players. Ole Semyon with a big smile on.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face. Tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.